So here at our NetBeans startup screen, we're going to create a new program that adds two numbers together. So let's click on File and go to New Project, and we're going to select Java Application. Let's give it a name here, and numbers. Just leave everything else as it is, click Finish. Okay, and now what happens is it creates an empty program that you need to fill in. It puts in all of these different lines of code here. Don't worry about what those mean for now, but what you're looking for is this line of code here and that keyword there, main. That's your main program, and all of your program code goes between these two braces. So all the code you write goes in here. So let's make a start. We need to first of all declare integer variables to store the numbers that we're going to add up. So when we declare a variable, we start by giving its data type, which in this case is an integer, then the name for the variable, number 1, and then we assign a value to that variable using the equals sign, which is called the assignment operator. So here, the data type, name of the variable, the assignment operator to put a value into the variable. Here I'm putting in the value of 10, and then when you end a line of code, put a semicolon. Okay. Next we need another variable to store the next number. Okay. And then we need a variable to store the result of the calculation. Okay. And then now we type a line of code which will actually do the calculation. So we type in the name of the variable that's going to store the result, assignment operator, number 1 plus number 2. Okay. So what is result going to store in it now? Well, to find out, we have to tell the program to generate some output. Okay, and now what's going to happen? Well, this line of code here is telling the computer to display whatever's in here, in the result variable, which hopefully will be 60. Let's find out by running the program. Okay, and yes, there it is. It's displayed in the output window there. So the next challenge was to modify the program so that it adds up 3 numbers. So how are we going to do that? Well, we need 3 integers. So we declare a third integer. Let's call it number 3 and assign a value of 50. Remember to put the semicolon. Semicolon indicates to Java that that's the end of that particular line, and to move on to the next one. And then we just simply add it here. Run the program. What should the result be? 110. In this demonstration, we're going to look at loops. it's probably best if I just type a bit of code and then you have a look at it and see what it's doing. So let's create a new project, new Java application. Let's call it while loop, or lop loop. Okay. So remember where our program code goes. You're finding this line of code that says public static void main, and then our code goes between these two braces. So first of all, I'm going to create a new integer variable called counter, and I'm going to assign the value of 0 to it. Right. And now here's where I create the loop, and this is how it goes. While open bracket counter less than 10 open brace what does this line of code do here? Have a think about that. Remember what this line of code does? I've got an error message here. I've spelled counter wrong. Let's correct that. So what's going to happen? Well, I've created an integer variable called counter and assigned a value of 0 to it. And here is the loop. And what we're saying is while counter is less than 10, add 1 to it. Okay. Plus plus means add 1 to whatever variable is on the left hand side of it here. And then we output counter to the screen. So what's going to happen? Well, this is going to continue to run until counter gets to the value of 10. So what's the output going to be? Let's have a look. Okay, so we see that the loop has run 10 times. Each time it adds 1 to the counter variable, and here it's got to 10. While counter less than 10, keep doing it. Once it gets to 11, it'll jump out of the loop and stop executing. So you give it a go now. Right, have a look at this program and see what it does. We have two variables, number 1, number 2. Number 1 contains the value of 10, and the number 2 variable contains the value of 50. And then we have a result variable, adding the two numbers and putting the result into here. Okay? So when this program runs, what will the value of result be? It should be 60. But let's say we wanted to run that calculation 10 times, and each time adding that value into our result variable. Okay. How do we do that? Well, we can either write out this calculation 10 times, which would be a lot of wasted code, or we can use a loop to run the calculation 10 times instead. So let's try that. What we'll do is we're going to use a while loop with a counter. So let's declare a new variable for our counter. So we declared a counter with a value of 10. We're going to run the calculation 10 times. And now we'll create our while loop. So while counter is greater than 0, open brace, okay, and then between these two braces is where our loop code is going to go. Result. Oops. And there you go. What does this mean? Why not just equals? Well, if we left just the equals sign, it would add number 1 and number 2 and put it into results. But if we use the plus equals sign, it adds number 1 and number 2 and then adds those to whatever's in result. So instead of overwriting whatever's in result, it's adding it. Then we have to take 1 away from the counter variable. Oops. Minus minus means take 1 away. And then let's produce some output. And what is that going to do? Let's delete this line of code here because we don't need that anymore. Okay. Oops. What we really want to do is have our result variable first and initialize it. That means set it to 0. Now the code looks a little bit untidy, so what we can do is go up here, click on source format, and it should tidy it up a little bit for us. And now let's run it. And then you can see down here it's executed this bit of code 10 times. And in the end we get 600.